Ant, my good friend. How are you, mate? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm good, Dean. Thanks for having me, mate. How are you?
Mate, I am awesome. Thank you very much. Ant, how do you pronounce your second name? I've watched that
Oh, here
interview
we
you
go.
did.
I
I
always
call you
say,
I can't do it. I can't do it. I call you Ant Heb.
yeah, well, I always say if you think of it in two halves, so Hebel,
Hebel,
double B, and then the end of it, Thwaite. Hebel, Thwaite.
Ant Heb. Brilliant.
And
Thanks for coming
that'll
on
do.
the I'll be, I'll be shocking. Thanks for coming on the podcast, mate. For those who don't know you, mate, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so obviously we've just touched on my name. I prefer to just say Ant. So Ant at DSOC. I work for, if you don't know us already, a monitoring supplier, full name, Doncaster Security Operations Centre, short name, DSOC. Reason I'm on this, and the reason I interact most with self-storage, is that we now have over 500 self-storage facilities connected to us. Now that'll be anything from monitoring an intruder alarm, a fire alarm, CCTV, access control, full remote monitoring, and such like.
Awesome. And mate, I first came across you on LinkedIn because you are everywhere on LinkedIn. You are literally Mr. LinkedIn. How many times a post you do a day?
Right, I always schedule. Do you know, like your generic content ones, when you're sharing someone's like leadership messaging or an insight that you've seen?
Yeah.
I'll always schedule, if I see a good one of them, I'll schedule them to try to get at least one a day. Because then in my mind, I'm posting at least one a day, which is kind of the content I committed to in my own head.
Yeah.
Because that's how I got my profile growing. But my own stuff, there's no real rule to it because it's just off inspiration. It's when I feel like posting something, if it pops up, if I've seen it through some work that we're doing, or I've seen someone in my network that I think deserves a bit of a celebration, a shout out, I'll just do it at the moment. Or videos, for instance, when I'm doing the walks. Like recently, I've not felt like doing one of them. So you might realize I've not actually not put a walking video up in a while because I've just not felt it.
Yeah.
So I don't really, I don't know, let's say two a day, I'd say probably. I enjoy it, mate. I love it.
Yeah, do you know what I like about your post? And I think that so many people don't do this on LinkedIn, and they definitely should because you get to know the person, and you speak about your football with your kids, your love of Liverpool, your walking, you and your wife going places, your kids, and you talk about work as well. And then you almost get to know, like, and trust you more. And I love the way you do that. And so many people just talk about work and they're ultra professional, but then you can't really connect with that person as much as you can connect with someone like you, who I feel like even before we spoke, I felt like I knew you because of all the content you put out.
I mean, I appreciate that. It's one of them things, isn't it? Like, I guess if you look at it like that, it's a good social media tactic in that sense. But it always, and that gives me a bit of a weird feeling because it certainly it started out when I kind of went from being an engineer on the tools into management, and I was using LinkedIn to learn. Like, I jumped on LinkedIn to think, I'm sure other people have been in my same position, but I was starting to feel uncomfortable in certain situations with that transition.
Yeah.
So I was looking around to peers and thinking, how do they act? And that's where it starts. And then, like I say to some other people that message me now about LinkedIn, it's got to then grow from there and it's got to feel natural and it's got to be natural. Because I think as much as people have said that, it gives you that superpower of people already feel like they know you and
Yeah.
you've got a head start. I think that comes across if you do that as a tactic. I think you can see that a mile off, created content, things that have been worded a certain way to get buzzwords. And whereas mine's just honestly, it's just on the feels. I share what I'm passionate about, and I'm passionate about a lot of things.
Bloody Liverpool, yeah. I see about so so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
bloody Man
right. So
City, more like.
right, let's get on self-storage because people are coming here for self-storage. So
Yes.
you must honestly see, like I said to you on a message, you must see the most sites in the UK. And I genuinely think that I don't think there's anybody else in the UK who sees as many self-storage sites as you see. So how are you seeing the market at the minute? Are people doing well? Are they struggling? Is it going to be a buoyant 2024? What are you seeing at the minute?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that comes from my background, from engineering background, is that we're ultimately asked what we're really selling is the trust of looking after your site remotely.
Mm,
And I think I only feel comfortable doing that once I've got my head around how that business operates, not just as people and processes, but also what systems do they have on site? What do I see as risks? And that's why I'd go do the visits. And I think the fact that I've been and seen loads of sites is because we've taken a lot of them on. And but yeah, you're right. It's a pertinent question to ask because when I first got into this, I never thought I'd be going on and actually having a good take on what the industry's doing. Do you know what I mean? Like we actually can see them patterns now. I've just gone with this sole focus of security.
yeah.
So to answer your question, I guess Last year, it was definitely faster growth on external sites,
Yep.
container only as well. So, like the mixed sites of internal plus external, there were less of last year, I'd say, for us. That's my viewpoint. This year so far, and what are we only 5 months in? Not only the sites that we've taken on already, but the sites that are coming up, there seems to be a lot more through acquisition.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not the business guy on it. Obviously, you run self-storage, you'll know better insights on that, mate. But from a visibility of seeing what's going on, if there is a pattern, it seems to be acquisition. There are still startups. Again, containers more common than indoors. Indoors in construction probably more this year than they were last. But as an overall pattern, I'd say it's probably acquisition.
Yeah, I'm just writing down here. There is going to be more acquisitions from what because I get to know quite a bit about what's coming up, and people said don't say anything on the podcast. Now I always say I'm literally a vault. You give me some information, I won't go anywhere. But with it, but there's going to be some massive big announcements coming up soon with some big acquisitions, and yeah, it's really exciting. So, what do you see a successful self storage company? Then you see patterns. Obviously, you're going to say security.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. You're asking for another insight as well as that. I get it. It's strange actually because I do go there with security in mind. If I'm on a Teams call, a phone call, if they introduce me to their installers, if I go on site. But really, while doing that, you are getting to know the people.
Yeah,
So I think that's where I'd normally start. The success with what we do and with of running that business, whether it's remote or whether it's in person manned, it starts with the person running it. And I don't just mean like yourself, I mean your team.
yeah.
So for instance, with yourself, your team, and then with others who have got maybe less of a unmanned and more of a satellite model, then maybe it becomes more that their systems have to be absolutely concrete because they're moving away from being manned. They weren't always unmanned.
Yeah.
So it does become systems when the model's changing. But I think if your model's clear from the start and you're manned or unmanned and that's what you're going to be, I just think then it's really people that set it apart more than it is systems. And then, like you say, mate, obviously on our side, I'm going to say the security. I am going to say that even at least making sure there's more modern cameras, making sure that it's maintained properly, and just gives them customers that kind of peace of mind. And we do hear that's feedback.
Yeah, changing our cameras has been a game changer for us, has been massive. When you go around now, do you see actually people are going away from the crappy container sites? There's a container site in Hull that's actually no longer there anymore because the container, if you looked at the reviews, leaky containers. To be fair to them, when I went there to pretending to be a customer, they said literally don't store anything here because they are watertight to a certain degree, but if it's heavy rain, they will leak. I'm like, oh, thank you. Do you see more people going away from that model now and spending more money on the sites? Because you posted some pictures of some incredible sites. I think, holy shit, we're gonna have to keep up in our game to make sure that we can compete with these people if and when they come into our area.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd actually say that I've seen that in the time I've been working at DSOC. I'd
Yeah,
say that when we started out in 2020, the container sites that I did go to see through inquiries or referrals, they were on that journey, let's say. Like some of them were old container sites that were replenishing, repainting, rebranding,
yeah,
putting new gone down on the ground for the driving, for car parks, for the fencing. Whereas now that's just absolutely standard. Like
yeah,
that seems to be in the market. Like if I see a new container operator pop up as a prospect and I start talking to them, I just know now that they're going to have consistent branding. They're going to go for good fencing. They're going to have a good reliable gate system. Yeah, so I'd say it's now thankfully, and that's not just through. I'll give a shout out actually to the CSTA with that as well, not just the SSA, because I do so much work with the SSA UK, but also the CSTA are now
yeah.
being really, really proactive with the supplier membership. So they're looking to bring the security advice that we've got into that market and referrals I've had in that space, which are just container operators. They've got a very clearly defined model now, a very clearly defined professional model from day one.
Yeah, and remote management, the sites. What's your opinions on these? Because I know that I got a text off you last week saying I think we disagree on this, and I was like, oh shit, what do we disagree at? So we went into it a bit more because I feel like that you thought I didn't think remote management for a container site, not having anybody there. You thought maybe that I was saying that don't have monitored cameras, etc. But you know what? I actually think you should do. If like we're up in Scotland now, and there's no way with any degree of confidence, I would open that without making sure we've got cameras and the manned, there's somebody watching them all the time. And so are you seeing more remote sites? Do you like the remote site model, or do you prefer somebody on site? What are you seeing?
It's it's hard to say prefer, I guess. It doesn't really matter as long as, from our perspective, as long as the systems that should be in are in. So I guess, like say you said, disagree. I know what you mean, but from my side, it's selfishly, obviously from a DSOC perspective, but also from my passions of sites and businesses being secured. I just remote management seems to always be a priority, and it should be because it's a business core function. I get it. That's how you're going to run your business and run your sites. Remote monitoring seems to be like an add-on. It seems to be, well, as long as we've got the ground level, as long as we've got the fencing in, as long as the gate's good and we get the containers down and we've got on-site recording cameras and we've got the remote management tool, whatever that is, then we're good to go. I just fight that fight to try and get remote monitoring in as an absolute prerequisite, as early as possible. That's my angle on it. My angle is just to go straight away. As soon as you've thought about getting cameras in, think about them being monitored. It doesn't need to be us. Just think about them being monitored, because as soon as you get a break in, it's contagious, and it's not just causing potentially your site a problem. I may well have customers in that same footprint, or other self-storage members. They're now it's like a magnet. So it's trying to get that monitoring in as early as possible. I guess that's my angle on
Yeah,
it. But I don't have a preference. I honestly don't. We've seen fully unmanned sites with IP camera systems in and gate control systems in, Barebox, PTI, Nokia, the job lot, done brilliantly well, and they work perfectly. There's no need for staff to be on that site. And then I've seen others where you definitely get an advantage by having a member of staff on site,
yeah,
particularly with indoor storage, because on the indoor storage sites, you're getting that person feeling on the ground when they have an interaction face to face with a customer. They get a certain feeling that we can't gain through the tech, just a gut. And if we've got a good line of communication with that person on the ground, we've then got that gut feeling.
yeah.
I see benefits both ways, really.
Yeah, do you know what? For whatever we speak about now, I think that's going to be my biggest takeaway. Is because when I'm coaching through my course and people send me the projections, etc., I haven't put a line in, mate, at all for remote for somebody monitoring the cameras. And you are so right. I think people put it as a nice to have. They
And
don't
that
put
was
it
my
as,
point when you said about, about us disagreeing.
yeah,
It was like, I saw your remote management on the newsletter, and I was like, yeah, mate, absolutely have it in there, but put monitoring on it.
yeah. And
And I know you're looking at it because we're doing it together, but sometimes you're doing it afterwards.
that is
And
so true. Yeah.
if it's by the model, it's in the budget, it's in the planning, it's in the whole thing. It gets done then by design, doesn't it? So as
Yep.
soon as your cameras are powered up, they're monitored.
And so two things with that. So for everyone listening, Ant is going to do a little piece in the course about that, because I do think it is really, really important. And when Ant's talking there, I'm thinking, shit, I actually don't know where we are, because I know you're going to monitor ours, but I know there's been some hold up along the way because I'm not actually in the weeds talking about the hold ups. I've left it to the team. I don't know what the problem is. And we're having some people leave, some people come in. And I'm like, right, we're a bit lost here. So at the end of this call, mate, we definitely need, I'll start pushing that, because we definitely need to get it sorted. Because
Yeah, but
just for,
I'm glad that you shared that, because it's an example, mate. Is that it's absolutely no one's fault that these things take a bit of time. It's because they're not done at the start.
yeah,
Like, as an example, I won't say the site, but one of the sites you've already got it monitored. You've got the unit alarms monitored and the alarm monitored by an ARC, a different ARC, and then you've got the cameras installed on the outside, which were being spoken about being connected to us. But I'm not going to take the cameras on until we've got the building alarm and the access control alarms, because I don't see any value.
yeah,
You won't offer you a true value unless we monitor the unit alarms and the cameras. So, but if when it were built, the contractors had a specification that said remote monitoring of all to, it doesn't even need to be DSOC, but to someone, it'd have got done then. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. And I don't even know which site is fully monitored. I'm like, do we? Oh,
I
brilliant!
do,
Nice.
I do. We'll talk after.
You'll have to tell me later. Yeah, yeah. With Glasgow, you'll be pleased to know we booked in Adrian. Adrian's coming and sorting that out. And as soon as that's done, with a viewpoint for you guys doing it, we are having somebody on that Ibrook site as well, working full time. But it doesn't take away from the fact that on an evening, I just feel so much more safe, secure that somebody is watching the site. But not only that, it's for a fire point of view as well. Because my biggest worry in self storage is that my building burns down. If my Willoughby branch burns down, that is probably 900 and something grand worth of turnover just gone overnight. I'm in deep, deep shit. But if I've got enough cameras monitoring that, you guys looking at it, you guys might see something, may not, but might do. There's a heightened chance of you guys seeing something before the smoke alarm picks it up, so we can escalate it quicker. And that's the thing that I haven't been thinking about before. So I think that would be so beneficial for us to have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's just getting them standards in. Self-storage is getting there. There's a bit of a misperception that self-storage is behind with such things. I disagree with that generally because we work with retail as well, and I don't think there's any sector that's well ahead more one than the other. If anything, self-storage has got an opportunity to be ahead with the tech because of how many of these sites are being run remotely. So it's actually cleverer in some senses. But yeah, I don't feel like it's a self-storage bashing exercise of you should all get it on earlier. It's we get there with it. It's just if I had one piece of advice, it'd be do it at the start.
And do you know one bit of feedback I give to DSOC as well? I actually thought it'd be more expensive than it was. And that for me, yeah, it was a nice to have. And I was thinking, yeah, but it's going to cost this much money. And then when you actually came with a quote, I was like, what is that for? Is that for a year? That's a year. I was like, holy shit, how do these guys do it? You're very, very efficient with your time and the pricing. I think it's unbelievably priced, and it's in the peace of mind that it gives somebody, it's a no-brainer. So yeah, mate, we'll talk about what's happening with my sites and why we haven't got it sorted yet.
Yeah, no, we'll get it done, mate.
Yeah,
You're good though. You've got in place what you need. I know, like Adrian's done some cameras on one of the sites as well, and it's all right. It's just getting it all connected up.
yeah, I know Adrian's done Beverley, he's done Wrexham as well. So at the minute, and are you seeing the people that are approaching you, are the new operators or the people who's been in the industry quite a while and starting to think, do you know what? I need to up level my tech, up level my monitoring. How are you seeing that?
It's pretty. If you do it by site count, it's probably like a 50-50 split. Because and reason it is because we're getting far more new business inquiries from startups, independents, 1-2 site owners. But then the interest we're getting from existing operators who don't currently work with us, they've obviously got a higher site count.
Yeah.
So there are less of them, but the site count's much higher. But yeah, generally speaking, the onboarding of new self-storage sites has not slowed down for us in the whole 2 years.
So you say you've got 500 sites that you're
500
monitoring?
just in self-storage, that is.
That's mental. That it's unbelievable how many people actually use. And there's that. When did you start at DSOC doing self storage?
I joined DSOC in August 2020.
And was there doing many self storages then?
I think all told, we probably had 20, something like that.
So it's been, has it been a real tactic of yours thinking, you know what, right, that's it, self storage is undersupplied here?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I won't claim the whole thing because
No, I
we
think you
already
should.
had we already had some contacts and relationships there. It was just that obviously me being tasked with sales because I joined DSOC actually in a kind of a split role. It was technical to establish the back end of the control room to receive all the events and alarms,
Yeah.
but it was never a vision that I was going to be the technical manager going forward. I was going to sell.
Yeah.
But we needed that in the early days. So whilst doing that and mapping it out, you realize how many different systems from a self-storage site can connect to us. So in them first early months when it clicked really is what I'd say. It was like we already have some in storage and they're quite valuable contracts compared to others. And we've got the contacts. And then obviously the owners of the business at the time are going to want the work. So 2 added to 2 and thankfully it has equaled 4.
Yeah, do you know what, man? I don't think I've ever said this to you, but I genuinely think you should be massively proud of the way you went about it. I saw the hustle, mate, and I saw what you was doing on posts. When people was commenting, something to do with self-storage, you would often make a comment saying, oh, looks really nice. Da, 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 da. Hey, by the way, I thought about hopping on the call and talking about security. I'm like, this guy's hustling. This guy's proper on it. Every post I put on it was like, Dean, want to talk about this? I was like, yeah,
Yeah, you were one of them that I was chasing, weren't you?
yeah. I remember going to a conference and you said, you was on my hit list Dean, to talk to, and I haven't seen you yet. Where are you?
Yeah. That were the good early days, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I
Oh
loved
yeah,
it.
that's part of it though. There'll be some. I just went to the security event recently, which is obviously for all the security companies, and there were some engineers that have come into sales positions or management positions that came to talk to me to say, like, literally from what I've seen through, you've done LinkedIn and how well known you've become and the work you've won. And it's given them a bit of like impetus to do it themselves. And then they almost ask like, is there some secret thing? Is there some, I like everybody does in business, I guess. Is there some, what are you doing? And I'm like, honestly, guys, in that first year and a half, nothing other than graft. You're
Yeah.
chasing it, and then you're chasing it again. And then you're looking at another sector because that one's not working. If you're doing the same thing this week as last week, what are you doing? Like you just got to be at it. And all along having confidence that all them years of experience I've got technically and on the tools, I'm talking sense. So it's gonna land. It's gonna land somewhere. It's just don't give up on yourself. Keep doing it in another space to another person. And thankfully, mate, it's worked. I mean, I didn't know at the time. I was doubting it for a while.
And now here you are on the Hacking Self Stories. You've made it, right to
Yeah.
the very top. And no,
The
I think
pinnacle.
it's testament to you, mate. And I think the key to it is your personality and just being you and not taking it personally. Someone didn't get back to you or whatever, and just going again, and not giving up. I was like, shit, this kid's not going to go away. I better have a call with him.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
mate,
Yeah.
I loved it. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. YSL, and tell us about the YSL, what it is. I've just realized when I've been saying this, I know you've invited James to come down and go for it, and I haven't got back to you on it. But I'll speak to him, but I don't know if James likes things like that. But I'll certainly ask him, mate. So
Yeah,
what is
that's all it's about.
YSL?
Just encourage it. So, yeah, the YSN. So it's the
YSN. Sorry, shit. Yeah, I've got end up there.
Young Storage Network.
Yeah.
So, oh, it might even be Young Storage Network. I should know that really, given that I'm on the board. Um, Basically, it's a group of like-minded in storage. So predominantly it's operators, so people aged 40 or under who work at a middle management or senior management position with a storage operator. They're on the board and they're encouraging other members to come into that mix. As well as there's a couple of supplier members like myself who are also on the board, myself, Sarah Manning. And we're encouraging the same with the suppliers. Like it's a networking opportunity. It's like-minded because roughly it's the same age bracket. We're all at roughly the same level in our careers, varying degrees, but roughly. We understand how to run the business. The one thing we share is we're all in the mix with it. That's how I'd say it. We are in the day-to-day operations of the businesses we work for.
Yeah.
Now, generally speaking, again, not the surefire rule, but generally speaking, when you get above that age bracket, sometimes that's you getting into ownership, you're getting into kind of C-suite staff, directors. They're not necessarily in the day-to-day. So the benefit I've had is there's some things that I think, am I doing this right within our business, and am I doing this right with our people? And you go talk to someone like a guy I'll give a shout out to straight away is Ricky Williams, space program. He's just outstanding. As soon as I think on the leadership side of it and managing our people, am I doing it right? I'll just check in with Ricky. I probably wouldn't have even really had that relationship with Ricky if I wasn't in the YSN. And I think that's what I'm saying to the members. Just get in, like I said to James, just get in the mix. Helps your profile. You're learning more about high level business and like-minded people.
Yeah, firstly, I agree. Ricky is awesome, but there's so many members in that group who are awesome as well. There is so many nice people. Like you said, Sarah Manning, she's one of the most nicest individuals that I have ever come across. I think she's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, she's class, absolutely class. I feel like I should name them all now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's all.
Because
I was thinking.
It's like who you left out.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, I'm only naming the people that Ant named. So if Ant left you out, I do apologise, but it's
all. Can't do that. Tag them in post.
No, it is. I think it's because when it first started, I think I did a speech for them, and there was like 12 people there or something, and that was like 3 years ago or something. And now I saw the picture, and there's
that's
like 40.
That's the shout I will give. So Anthony Adams, who's taken on the chair position, and then early days with the board with Emma Banks, building that and then having a clear
4 now.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Give me some time. I'm working my way up. So there were a clear vision on growth is the point. Like the SSA need complementing as well, and Helen, who's backed it really strongly and passionately, it needed a proper like strategic plan. What's the aim? And it was to grow membership, to offer additional benefits outside of membership, and the numbers, they've absolutely smashed the numbers. Like it's ridiculous. It's just like way above and beyond, and it's still growing. And the awards is out again. And I should say that on this. Although actually, did you say this is going out next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, yeah.
So from now, the award applications for the YSM Member of the Year would have closed.
Oh, right, yeah.
So good luck, everyone.
Yeah. However, one well deserved. Yeah. So the message is anybody under 40 in the self-storage industry, get in, because I I'm over 40, so I can't join. But yeah, I think that it is a great network. There's some great individuals, and I reckon you make friends as well. You guys look like you have a right laugh together as well.
We do. That's it. It's literally what ends up happening. And obviously, it's always work, but if you got them bonds and them friendships, and that carries through with work. That's what you're after, isn't it? That's the
Yeah,
magic, really.
yeah, mixing the two. And so shifting gears again, mate.
Yeah,
Mental health. I know you're a massive advocate of it, and you know what? It's something that I don't think people speak about enough. And like we were saying, I know that a neighbour of my mother-in-law's, he committed suicide and his kids found him, and nobody in the village knew there was anything wrong. He was the happiest go luckiest guy ever. Nobody knew he had any. Nobody knows still. Was it money problems? Was he upset? Did he have mental health? We didn't. Nobody knew. And the problem is, I think with blokes, we don't check in with people. You don't check in with each other because the blokes like, well, we just get on with it kind of thing.
I
And I
know.
think that now, I think it's the wrong way to be. And I saw one of your posts, maybe a week or two ago, and I thought, oh, what an outstanding post. And you said, listen, I'm done in. I'm taking a couple of days off. I need to recharge.
Yeah.
And that just wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. And I think that is such an amazing post because you're shining a light on it and you're being honest and telling people how you think and how you feel. And I think that is testament again to you, mate. So what are your words on mental health?
I think that obviously everything you've said, firstly, but then I think another angle to maybe consider, and this is what when I talk to people about it, I try to get across. I think there's a responsibility with people who aren't struggling with it necessarily day to day, but are high performers, doing well at work, doing well in whatever they do, and they've got a platform, whether that's a social media platform, whether that's an in-person platform, whatever it is, they've got a reach and an impact. I think it's important for them people to share how they achieve that, how they appear to be that duck on water, because that's where a lot of the pressures come from, particularly in a young man growing up.
Mm.
You're looking where you want to be, and that's your driving purpose. And you're looking at others and you're thinking, I could never be them. Whether that's to do with how you feel that you look, how you appear, how you come across, whether that's just what's spinning around in here and that you really like your own worst enemy. You could do with seeing someone who's a role model, who is someone that you look at and going, they're an achiever, they're doing well, they're smashing it. But if that person's not generally being honest with how they're actually achieving that, people are like marking up against the wrong image.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's why I'll put out a post sometimes, and I'll do that in my mind. I have it in my mind. I think if people are looking and thinking, how the hell does he do all that work? Like he's just at it and at it and at it, and they need to see the truth. Is that you know what? There's repercussions of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that absolutely burns me out. It has done. I've said it sometimes at the conferences before. By the time I'm done, if I've timed that wrong and I've been too busy on surveys and meetings in the month building up, I'm absolutely done in by the end of that conference. And then it's important to share that because if you don't, then that person that may well be struggling would never feel comfortable enough to tell themselves,
Yeah.
oh, that's normal. I'm feeling a normal feeling. Like that's totally normal. Don't overreact to it. So that's my I wouldn't say unique angle, but that's an angle I try to put out there because I think I support all other angles to do with supporting each other in mental health, reaching out, keeping in touch. I think it's important we all try to just think of a different one as well, another way in which we can make an impact with it.
Yeah, 100%. And two people I think deserve a shout out here as well as yourself. It's Tommy Whitney. Tommy, he puts
Oh,
posts up all
outstanding.
the time. And I know you two have met for the first time maybe a
Class,
month or
Tommy.
two
Love him.
ago. Yeah, brilliant guy. And he messaged me and said, I said, oh mate, what a person. He said, yeah, but I'm sick of people pretending that it's easy and it's not. And I'm going to start pointing out there, yeah, I'm doing well, I'm achieving, but here's the sacrifices that we're making. And then also Ben from Attic. I genuinely love that guy as well because he's just so open about his emotions, how he's feeling, what he's been through. And he's now doing a podcast and he's been there for other people. And so I think that them two, it's definitely changing. It's definitely changing too. Because I think in my lads as well, because I've got a 8-year-old and 9-year-old. And I'm thinking, shit, I hope that they feel comfortable when 10 years' time, 5 years' time, whenever, to talk to me about how they're feeling. And sometimes kids are being mean to Zach at school, 9 years old. But I love the fact he can still talk to me because
Yeah.
it's normal to talk to me at this age. But
Yeah.
I just hope he continues to talk to me. Because I want to support him. I want to be there for him, and I want him to know that it's okay to talk. Men can talk. We can talk to each other. We can say how we're feeling. We can say, "Do you know what? I've had a shit day today," and not being ridiculed for it. And I do think it's slowly but surely changing. And it's like honestly, I don't ever really get down, but I massively got down when I had a restaurant. I don't know if you know, I had a restaurant called Lazo,
No,
maybe
no.
8 years ago, and it was the worst 18 months of my life. I
No.
massively failed, and because I was supposed to be this businessman who was successful in my identity kind of thing, all of a sudden my identity was taken away because it was in the middle of Beverley. Everybody could see that the restaurant was doing
Right.
crap because nobody was in, so I couldn't even hide from it. So everybody could see, and I remember thinking, shit, what sort of a role model is this to my
Yeah.
kids?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking like an absolute failure. But what I didn't realize was it's not external values, it's not how much you earn, it's who you
So,
are,
yeah,
and
100%.
showing them how
How
to.
you deal with that is what someone, especially a young mind like kids, and obviously I'm mindful of that. I've got two of myself, but I also coach kids, and
Yeah,
it's how you react to it. I saw a video actually where it's quite funny when it's, I think it was TikTok or Instagram. You like TikTok, and
love TikTok.
it were even down at like toddler age. If a kid bangs themselves and the parent goes, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah,
The kid will start crying.
yeah,
The kid bangs himself, and you just go, "What are you doing? Come on!" And they'll laugh because you're laughing.
yeah.
It's an environment. And especially while you're young and impressionable, you'll just act how you see. So
Yeah.
it's how you dealt with that you went through that your kids will remember and that you'll talk about when they're older.
Oh yeah, I could constantly talk about, yeah, because I talk about it on the podcast all the time. But we've got something similar in our football team as well. So I coach under eights, and the amount of time they go down and they'll look at you, and if you say, "Oh, you're all right," I've got one coach who runs on the pitch thinking he's got the first aid bag.
Yeah,
Stay there. You all right? Do we need to put you in a position?
I know what you mean. Yeah,
I'm like, mate. And so me and the other coach, we've got a saying, "Come on, up we get. We run it off. What do we do?" And now the kids are starting saying, "Run it off." I'm like,
yeah,
"No,
yeah,
you silly sausage. What have you done now?"
yeah, exactly.
But when the other coach comes on, they start crying their eyes out. They've got to come off and stuff, and you know they're not really here, but they're led by how you show up with them. And
But I
so,
think I do think that's a challenge for this generation now. With obviously our kids, your kids, my kids, that age. It's that resilience, like because the world's a cleverer place, tech and things can be instant, and there's a tendency for them to grow up in that sense of they can achieve anything, and you want them to think that like I can achieve anything, I'm capable of anything, and just a little bit of grandeur, a little bit potentially, and a little bit of expectancy. And I always liked again another thing about how I act and what I do. It's trying to get across that graft. Everything takes hard work, and how you deal with a failure defines you more. It's getting that message across as well, because there's some of us have some young lads that I guess you could say that I mentor in a sense that they message me quite a lot because they worked in the industry when I were a senior engineer. And they always think that they'll message to say you deal with this so well, you deal with that so well. It's like you will as well. You're just not there yet. You know what I mean? You're 12 years younger. Like I
uh,
deal with that well now at this age. I didn't deal with that well at 23. I didn't start dealing with it well till I were about 28, 30. Like
yeah,
just getting that message out to them as well. It's sometimes it's just a timing thing, a growing up thing.
yeah. And I know we bounced a lot around a lot on this podcast. Now we'll get back to self storage in a minute, but just going back to that 18 months, I looked at it during the time it was going on. I genuinely went to bed and I woke up in the morning. I hated the alarm going off because I genuinely thought nobody can get me. There's nobody can chase me for money. There's no staff who can complain. There's nobody can ring in sick. And in bed was my little safe place. I loved it. But looking back now, it was one of the best parts of my life in terms of learning. I know there's no way I'd be where I am now today without going through that shit. So
Yeah.
overall, it felt like a bad experience, but it
Mm.
wasn't. It was a really good experience. So the closing message on this part of it is good and bad things happen to us every single day of the week. But the problem is at the time we don't know which is which because something that's good may turn out to be bad. Something that's bad may turn out to be good. I always go back to before Claire had a fiance and we split up, found out she's cheating on me, and I was like, oh my God, it's the worst time of my life. But it wasn't. Now she's really happy. I'm really happy, and we're mates still. And we had to go through that because we weren't right for each other. And now she's happy, I'm happy. It's life's perfect.
Yeah,
The
totally
restaurant,
agree.
exactly the same. The restaurant, it was shit at the time, but now it made me double down on self storage. Where if it would have been marginally successful, I might have opened another restaurant, and I can only imagine what nightmares it'll be dealing with staff, like 20 members of staff at every restaurant. It'd been tough. So, and quickly going back to self storage before
Yeah, no
I
worries, mate.
lose the plot on
And,
everybody.
and also, just before we finish, to finish off another tangent, I am going to name the other YSM board members. They are getting their names in here.
Every single goddamn one
They
of you.
are. I think I'm missing two.
So one of the questions that I get asked, is it too late to start a self-storage company? And I always say, no. If you do it right, if you're a good operator, there's always room for you, especially if you find an unserviced area. What is your take on that? Because you see so many self-storages, so many operators. Is there room for more in the industry? Are we going to continue to grow this sector?
Yeah, I thought it's just yes, of course. I mean, like I only have to go off existing customers and the fact that pretty much all of them are occupied. Like that tells you that's it. Same as anywhere else in any supply and demand. And if I heard of a few opening and they were open 3 years and they'd not got over 50% full, I could probably then say no. Whereas any of them that I ever speak to, and I don't really ask, but it just comes up in conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know any of our existing customers that's anything less than probably 75, 80%. And that's probably gives you your answer, doesn't it? I think it clearly changes like any industry. There's a bit of clever business thinking. Some of them are going with a satellite model. Some of them are going with like smaller city centre storage type buildings, and it'll just diversify and innovate from here, I'd say, but I don't see it slowing down.
I just love the industry because I cannot believe all my friends are trying to get in self storage now. All my family, because they're pig sick of me talking about it so much. And I'm such a massive advocate of it because it's genuinely changed my life. And there isn't a lot of moving parts. You just need to do a small number of things right, and you'll get good results. And yeah, I'm a massive advocate of it. So, and if people wanted to get in touch with you and DSOC, where would they go? And by the way, everybody say that I listened to Ant on the podcast because then one day he might sponsor the podcast. So everybody said he came from a storage podcast, hacking self storage podcast. So
Yeah,
where would
that's
they
it.
go, Ant?
Website would be the easiest one, www.dsocc.uk. And then obviously drop me an email if they need to get me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Simple as that, really. The website is, I always want it to be better. It's much better than it was, and it does capture everything. So it's all on there.
Right. Yep. Don't worry, mate. What I'll do is I'll link to your website. I'll link to your LinkedIn and your email as well on the bottom of whether it be LinkedIn, YouTube,
Yeah, I've
and
got so the email address. I've changed our normal domain is a Hebblethwaite, so it's first letter, first name, then surname. But I've got an alias, so it's just ant at dsoc.uk.
oh, perfect. There we go.
People struggled with the Hebblethwaite, and I wasn't getting certain
I
emails.
don't know what you mean, mate. I never have. And thank you very much for your time, mate. Really, really enjoyed it, buddy. Sorry it's taken so long. I did say I'd only take 20 minutes of your time, but
Let me just get in. So the YSM board members I didn't say are Shannon Carter from Lens
she's
and
lovely.
Jamie Thomas from Blue. I didn't mention them.
He's
Said you
awesome.
all now, guys. Don't complain.
And great work. Well done, mate.
Cheers, pal.